The podcast that you're about to listen to does not care about your emotions, your hypersensitivity, or your political correctness. If you wish to continue, then
shut up and sit down.
What's good, ladies and gentlemen? You're listening to the Alpha 5 podcast. I'm your host, John, here with Fabian, and we have two special guests today. We have Phil, a returning guest, and we have Brandon. What's going on, homies? How you doing?
What's up, man?
How's it going? How you feeling in these climates today? What's going on?
Confused.
Yeah, I hear that. Fabe, how you feeling, man? What's going on?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good.
I hear that.
Just it's crazy, go to work and stuff, and then I look in the news and I look everywhere and try to make sense of.
Seems like a revolution is going on. Right? Or something. So let's talk about revolution, because I want to talk about what the fuck is going on in this country right now. Honestly, I want to do a deep dive. Okay. So I want to get some perspectives. I want to get some perspectives. Obviously, I have a perspective, but I want to get you guys' perspectives because I know for the audience out there that doesn't know, Fabian and Brandon kind of lean a little right and Phil leans a little left, as do I. Most of the time,
I would say so. Yeah, I would say I consider myself a left-leaning centrist, but definitely leaning left.
Right. So we have us on to pretty much get both perspectives, because that's what it kind of seems like is going on in the country right now. It's like it's a major divide, and maybe we can get some clarity. Maybe try to find some solutions or something like that. So, first I'll start with you, Phil. I wanna know what you think about the situation.
All right. So, I'm living in Philly right now, so there's a lot of action right here. Like, I'm in the actual city of Philadelphia, and I see a lot of different things. I actually see both sides of it. I'm not going up into any protests because I can't put myself in that situation. There's a lot of violence on both sides going on there. A lot of people taking opportunities, not protesters, but looters and rioters and people who I don't think have anything to do with this cause, taking a lot of opportunities up there, and things are getting very scary. I also see the other side. I'm in a lot of Facebook groups with a lot of people from South Philly who tend to be predominantly white and who are, in their interpretation, looking out for their community. A lot of them have really, really good intentions. I know my neighbors do. Like, these are good people who want to do good things. And then I see a lot of people misguiding their message and taking it to a different level where it is not based upon people looting. It is based upon people's appearances. I'm going to put it that way. So it's concerning me because I'm seeing, you say revolution, and that concerns me only because I don't know what is the interpretation of a revolution right now, with a division in this country and nobody able to have discussions that we're going to have tonight. What is this revolution? All I know is that, as we said before we started recording, the revolution will be televised.
Yeah, you're right about that. You're right about that. Faye, what are your thoughts?
I think it's. I'm gonna be frank. I take like everything else. I try to take all sides of everything, and I realize that a major injustice was done, and it's continuing to happen. And this is a little bit of a wake-up call. And so I'm proud that actually people are actually standing up and doing what's right and defending, against the injustice in this country. And I'm a firm supporter of that. And then also see the negatives that are going on. And I see that there are people taking advantage of the situation and using it for the selfish reasons. And I just see through the BS. And I know that if you look one way and you get your sources from one side, they're going to tell you that all this bad stuff is happening. And if you look on one side, they're going to tell you, oh, it's nothing but good and nothing else is coming out of this. And both sides are right. And it's unfortunate that we actually have that divide in this country where you can only pick one side or the other. And so I'm a little saddened by that, because this isn't a partisan issue. This is an American issue. This is something that we all have to come together on. And it bothers me to see what I see on the news, because I see people that I know, that I'm friends with, that are close to, brainwashed by one side or the other, and realize taking it all in and saying, okay, we all agree what happened was bad, and it should have never happened, right? all agree on that. And even police officers, all types of people say that. But like I said, it's just now they're just dividing how do we go about changing that. And I think that's a discussion that we should have.
All right, Brandon, what do you think about it?
Man, I mean, you guys already have kind of summed it up. It's pretty clear. Obviously, what happened was it was horrifying. I actually couldn't even watch all of that video. It was horrifying. But I think definitely what's going on is dividing. I don't think that it's ironic when we're coming out of this coronavirus pandemic that all of a sudden, literally as I think I stated it the other day, as the thought of martial law kind of fades into the past, that literally our country goes up in flames. And what we're dealing with right now I think is driven by something that we're all confused on. It's a show. It's a we're all rats in a cage, essentially, and I think it's pitting people together that at a time right now, what we have with technology and all our advancements, we should be closer than ever. As far as a community, a nation that's like, hey, we can thrive, we can do this as a whole. But every time we turn our heads, the news pitting the same story. Well, it's a rerun. It's all the same show, just over and over and over and over, and there's nothing ever changes.
Okay. Well, I'll give my quick thoughts about it. My thoughts are, of course, we know that was murder. He should go away, maybe even face a death penalty. The other officers should be arrested too and face some kind of punishment too. That being said, I feel like this is a bubbling point for the past, I can't even say 50, 60 years. I'm going to say since 1619. So when you have, I saw an analogy. If you have a classroom full of kindergartners, they're lashing out, they're tearing up the room, they're doing this. The response is not to hurt those kindergartners, it's to show them love and understanding, and understand that the reason why they're lashing out is trauma. So when you have a certain level of trauma from a community that mostly has been ignored when they have said something, I mean, it's just now where we're coming out and saying, you know what, enough is enough. But enough wasn't enough with Rodney King, Amadou Diallo, Walter Scott, Philante. The list goes on. There's literally too many names for me to list. So I feel like this is, again, I don't agree with the violence of the writing, but I kind of feel like this is America's comeuppance. This is the culmination of ignoring your original sin and never facing it, saying it's in the past, get over it. Why can't you people just pull yourself up by your bootstraps? And it's like, well, yeah, it's only been like that for us for 60 years. You guys had hundreds of years ahead of us, and we're being targeted at the same time. So it's really, we're seeing now, okay, what that meant. The fear that I'm sure some white people had that one day black people was going to try to X, Y, and Z. Well, yeah, you know what I mean? On a long enough timeline, that's what you're going to get. And it's not right. But I feel like this is just a collection of bullshit for years and years. So
I got a couple thoughts I got my teacher hat on, because you talk about a classroom. So like the first thing I think about with like it is, if my class is not doing what I need them to do, which now that sounds wrong because that sounds like an imposition of dominant culture. But if my class is not, I mean,
it is what it is. You can say
what is government? I mean, what is anything? What is any democratic society? It is the dominant culture instilling their will on the minority culture. It happened. That's democracy. Tell me that's not democracy when we all vote on one idea and everybody's got to follow it, even the people that didn't agree with it and that potentially could be victimized by it. So that's democracy, whether or not we agree with it, right? So in this society, or in a classroom, I have a class that's not doing what I need them to do, so I have to change my approach, though. And it isn't about them, it's about me at that point. And as a teacher, I have to change everything I do in that classroom, especially if my class is quote unquote misbehaving. And if my class gets up and starts to mutiny, I'm one person. I have before coronavirus, I had 33 kids in a classroom. So at that juncture, if I have that many kids in that classroom and they're not doing what I need them to do or want them to do, or not behaving in a certain way, I have to change my approach. If they don't all get A's, well, they shouldn't all get A's, but if they don't, if not, most of them don't achieve, I have to change my approach. And that's what you're really talking. I mean, that's what you're saying, is our system needs to change if this is happening. And, it does. I mean, when you compare it to a classroom, when I compare it to a classroom, it sounds like an imposition of my will on those kids, or of an imposition of the dominant culture on the minority culture. But that is society. I mean, that's how it goes.
I think we have to start being honest that who's in positions of power in this country. We don't have to turn away from that fact that white people are in control here. Mm-hmm. You understand?
So, with that said, if you're being a teacher, like you said, you're not getting that approach, you have to change it. Now let's envision the whole. Now you're in a school, other teachers, other students. Your approach isn't going right. You're not getting your results that you're getting. Now every other teacher in the school is getting their results. Every other kid in that school is getting should the entire school change their notions based on what the one teacher and what that one classroom is.
If I'm not getting what I need and everybody else is, then I'm the failure. Right. And that school needs to get rid of me. And that's the situation. So, if you consider the federal concept of the United States and you're saying like one state isn't getting you things and other states are working. Yeah. I mean, you can't fire that state, but absolutely. I mean, listen, I would love to fire some of these states. I'm not going to mention specific ones.
We all know which ones you want to fire.
Mississippi. We all know it's Mississippi. But just, Mississippi. But anyway, I've never been there. I have no reason to say that about those people. It's so cruel.
States, I think we can all agree Mississippi's probably been the racist state.
Fabian, you want to get rid of Mississippi?
It's been the worst.
We'll trade it for Puerto Rico.
Yo.
Oh. Hey, but then all of a sudden the people in Mississippi won't have to pay taxes.
Imagine doing a racial draft for states. Like Chappelle.
Mississippi will be the new tax haven.
Oh man.
But one more thing. With regards to what you said about people being concerned that black people come to their houses and kill them. I am in some Facebook groups in Philadelphia where some people, and it's not the people that organize the groups, but I'm telling you, these people, they are convinced that a purge-like event is coming from the mythical Antifa, which is about as real as the Boogeyman and the Easter Bunny, right. and obviously BLM, which to them, in any BLM, I know what BLM means. It means black people. And it's code in what they're talking about. I'm not saying everybody who says that is, but when they say that, that's what that code is. The black people and their white friends that sympathize them. You know what term they would probably use for those folks. Right. They're going to kill them.
Antifa mythical? I mean, they have.
Oh, it's not. There's no organization. Who's the leader? The thing that there was a post about them going in the suburbs or whatever on Twitter, and that was all proven to be a white supremacist. That was posing as Antifa.
Definitely infiltration on both sides. I think Antifa is a term used three percenters. A lot of people who get in three percenters. Three percenters have no organization, no leadership. It's all civilian based, completely real group, completely organized.
You should have seen the last guy I saw wearing a 3%er shirt here in Philly. He couldn't even pick up a cell phone when he dropped it, and his friend was threatening to rape some women. So real class act, this guy. So, and that's what I mean is the guy bought a shirt. And he's not a 3%er. And this concept of Antifa does not exist. There is no organization. Well, BLM is more organized.
That what gives something reality is the concept of it and pushing and moving thousands and in a sense sometimes millions of individuals into believing in that and pushing that and representing themselves as that. Doesn't that make it real?
If you have like something that you organize behind, but what is like what and who? Like give me the Antifa slogan. Give me anything other than
the leader of the Antifa, George Soros.
No, oh no! I liked you. Oh, I liked you. We were having nice chats. We were enjoying one another's company, and then you dropped a George Soros. Now, let me ask you a question about George Soros. Did George Soros? Did he join along with the Nazis and turn in the Jews in Hungary? Did he do that? Because that's the big story about George Soros. And as a Jew, I take serious offense.
I don't want to stay too long on the
Oh, we're not going to spiral into Soros.
Well, no. The reason being is because I have a specific. I think we all should have a specific conversation and a specific goal at hand, and it's kind of to point out the problems that we are facing right now. And to maybe try to find some common ground and some kind of solutions. So, whether Antifa is real or not, that's something that we could probably have for another day. But as far as we can go about into constitutional rights that are being taken away. I'll segue from Antifa into designating groups terrorist organizations, so you can take away their constitutional rights, because there's also an idea that Black Lives Matter is also down with Antifa, and they should also be put as terrorists. And so I kind of want to know what you guys think about that, because at this point, with all the people out there, labeling somebody Antifa when there is really no way to label somebody, I feel like is a way to take away rights and lock people up and shut them up, especially if you're trying to lump them up with Black Lives Matter. And this is where it comes into what rights are we willing to fight for, and which ones are we willing to, all of us. You understand?
And I can answer that. There is no what rights we should fight for. We should fight all our rights. And that's why I try. It shouldn't be a partisan issue. And I was discussing with somebody else, but our rights as American citizens is something that we should be shared by whether you're Democrat or Republican. And the problem is, and that I've seen everywhere, is that they're making the Second Amendment a partisan issue. They're making the freedom of religion a partisan issue. If you believe in this, you're this way. If you believe in that, you're left. And that's a problem that I have. That's actually my biggest beef. And I said this before, that my rights as American citizens and the Bill of Rights, that comes first. That is us, regardless of who you are in this country. And that supersedes party. Trump could say tomorrow that he freaking doesn't want to support the Second Amendment anymore, or he thinks, we should abolish religion. Nope, sorry, dude. No, not supporting you. Simple as that.
Well,
I
think we're talking about here through the fourth, fifth, and sixth. I mean, that's once you become a terrorist, you don't have those rights.
No, I agree. And
that's the scary part, right?
And that's the problem
Second
I have.
Amendment, not even. I'm not even worried about that one right now, because they're just going to take you. You can't get access to a gun when you're locked in a cage.
Exactly, and that's the loophole, because you can't be your rights. You basically surrender your rights to the Constitution, your Bill of Rights, your rights as an American citizen, without the due process of law. Due process of law says you you're done. And I have a problem with that, because we're leaving it up to interpretation to the government to tell you who's a terrorist and who's not. It depends on which way the wind blows, who's in office. Are we going to consider some right-wing groups?
What do we feel about what do we feel about constitutional rights being abused right now?
No.
Because you see rights being broken there. Our right to protest by cops. And I mean, as this man gave his address yesterday, he cleared out Lafayette Park of peaceful protesters with tear gas. That is a direct violation of constitutional rights. And so you are saying it's beyond party lines, but we need to be fighting for those same people. You understand? This is an attack on all of us. If you're okay with coming up with excuses for not even George Floyd, if you're just okay with people being terrorized by police for law and order purposes, right? You got things, in my opinion, fucked up.
No,
and this is why we're.
So
we all.
What is law and order? Yeah.
And that's something that everybody needs to stand for, because that's exactly the type of shit that we actually went to wars with other countries to release people from. Corrupt governments. We've seen that all the time. That's America's supposed to be against that. We're supposed to be against the martial law. We're supposed to be against a militaristic state.
So what are we going to do to this administration if that's how you feel? Because this is what's happening right now.
And I don't think they're holding them accountable at all.
My thing is that what we have to. So right now, my thing is that the cops out there, right? Just like everybody's talking before, they have to hold the brethren accountable for their actions, right? Simple. If they're doing something wrong and they're not upholding that uniform and that badge, something has to be done about it, right? Now,
we say that, but when is that done? Like,
I don't now, and all the cops are doing it.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I don't mean to cut you off. But like, when does that happen, man? Because I know good cops. You know good cops. We all know good cops. Why don't they stop the bad ones?
Because you know what it is? I think it's the same idea as the way I see it, from what I understand. I mean, obviously not a cop, but the way I see their interactions with some of them, it's a bond just like the military, where they feel tribalism, almost guilty, but they're like, yo, this is my idiot freaking
like
brother.
Brotherhood, yeah.
It's brotherhood. But
and
it's even
like, I
more
get
than
that.
that. They see him as family. Some people, they would have to lay their lives on the line for this person.
And they have
Yeah,
to
man, I
feel
know
that
he's
way.
fucked up,
They
but
have
I
to
don't
feel
want to.
that way. But at the same time, it's like I saw a video of, it was Seattle, and two cops. One, it was during these protests, had his knee on a guy's neck, and the people are yelling, "Get your knee off his fucking neck!" And another cop, moves his knee. Winston, I sent it to you, and it was like that's all it took. And the idea is that and that's why I don't think this is a racial issue necessarily, other than the fact that George Floyd was black and Derek Chauvin was white, because the cop was Asian who holds him back. The cop that shot Philando Castile was Asian. I think it's a lot of this is the police, the good cops that I know, that you know, that we swear do the right thing, and we know, like, I wouldn't believe that they would do the wrong thing. Where, like, how come there are not more videos of them doing the right thing? Obviously, right?
So what you said there,
Go
Phil,
ahead.
was, I don't mean to interrupt you.
No, please go ahead.
What you said was that, I think, I mean, so I feel like I live in a completely different world than all of you. I live in a small town. It's Texas. You know, I think I probably have more people, or you guys have more people in a city than I have in probably 200 square miles. You know what I mean? So it's a completely different environment. The law enforcement here is completely different. But like you said, you don't necessarily think it's a race issue. And I know a lot of people who feel that way. But the way the media has driven this, that's what it's turned into, is a race issue. And I think that's, from me, you know, and not personally me, I'm a lot more, I guess you would say, liberal in that sense from a lot of people in this area. But I know a lot of my white friends and even friends of color, people who are on that conservative side, that makes it harder for them to get into this movement because it's pushing a black life. Why can't this be a police brutality movement? We understand fully.
But Black Lives Matter is one thing. It's police brutality. It's not. It's not really. It's not really. Black lives are more valuable.
Well, the problem,
than others.
as a black man, I don't mean to cut you guys off, but
no, you should be the one talking about it.
It is a race problem, and we need to start saying it's a race problem.
Well, I didn't want to say.
The reason I say it's a race problem is because when you look at the equivalencies of the same crimes, black people are disproportionately punished worse. Okay, you look at the people in Michigan a few months ago when they were screaming in people's face with guns, and nothing happened to them. And the same thing when people are peacefully protesting, you can go look it up now. They're being gassed and tased, and they're not causing problems. They're not looting. They're just on their knees with their hands up, and they're getting gassed and shot with rubber bullets. A girl got shot in the forehead and lost her sight out of her left eye by protesting, okay, not looting and rioting. So it does come down to a race issue. When I see people, when I say Black Lives Matter, you say all lives matter. That's race. That is race to me.
I say it's a race issue as a consequence of power, and which it's cyclical, because, you know, there are more poor black people in our country than there are poor white people because of historical oppression. Because of that, that's just how it is through history. Black people have been less likely to have opportunities through systemic racism. However, I mean, you know, we all know it existed. We can argue about whether it exists now. I think, you know, we'd have a good argument about that. But the whole concept really comes down to that, and it's cyclical. So you have that Black people have historically been held down, as have Spanish people, as have Asian people, as have people who are essentially been not white Christian, not white Protestant most of the time, because Catholic people have been held down too, even sometimes other white people. But anyway, they've been held down, and then they were poor, and then as a result, they didn't end up getting the access to the opportunities, and they continued to be poor and continued to not have power. And it became a race issue. I mean, I don't know, it's cyclical. The concept is cyclical, but when I say it's not a race issue is because I see that it's the police in power. We know black cops who, I mean, I'm assuming they're not treated differently as cops among the other cops as long as they toe that line. If they step out of line, then they're treated differently. But I don't think that that's based on their race. I do think that there is certainly racial issue related to it, but I think that it's so cyclical that you can't just address it as one thing.
Okay. I mean, I get what you're saying. I just feel like, and I've heard this from plenty of white people, when they see a black person, they feel more afraid, right? And here's the biggest fucking joke: we feel the same way about police and white people. It's that's the funny part. We don't feel safe, and so I don't feel like the onus is on black people to have to protest because it is essentially to us a genocide. whether you agree with it or not, that's what it seems like it is. Yesterday, another black man shot by police, left his body, and he wasn't violent. Okay, they shot into a crowd because they thought they heard shots. They killed him and left his body in the street for 8 hours.
The barbecue guy?
The barbecue guy.
Yeah.
So,
you know, so at that point, I guess black people want to feel like their lives are valued just as much as everybody else, just as much as Casey Anthony's daughter and JonBenet Ramsey. You understand? People who the country was outraged.
Yeah.
And so this is the first time I've ever seen any mostly white people and black people and Spanish people all agree like this is bad. And what I guess the message is, yes, this is bad and this is terrible. This has been happening the whole time, and that's the point. And so I think we need to start addressing systemic racism inside our institutions, the laws. You understand? Attack the laws. And yes, not everybody is racist. Not all white people are racist, but all white people benefit from racism to a certain extent.
I agree. Brandon, what were you going to say?
You know,
so okay. For instance, last year there was somewhere, I don't remember the exact number, somewhere roughly just shy of 2,000 people killed by police. 24% of those were African American. I understand the argument. You make African Americans make up. I don't quote me. 13.
Yeah, I was trying to get percentages right now.
I think it's about 13 now.
Something like that. I get that. With that being said, I mean, when we look at the statistics of black on black crime,
I love
when you start pulling it in there, it's the same as white on white crime. We have more. White on white crime is double what black on black crime is.
Yeah, but those are apples and oranges because.
But wait. So if we're saying that black on black crime is not relevant, is what you're saying? It's the same as white on white crime. So the whole argument is null and void.
So not that it's not irrelevant. I guess what I'm getting at is the culture of it. So I grew up where I grew up at. First off, I've lived in a pretty diverse set of area. I've lived in like 38 of the 50 states. 49 states. I don't consider one of them a state. So,
but, we won't say which one.
I mean, I've experienced racism on both sides. I have clearly seen and been in areas where white people they're racist as shit. I mean, you know, and then and the vice versa. I've been in areas where I've experienced major racism towards me. I mean, it wasn't always against black. I've been in Asian neighborhoods. I've been in Hispanic neighborhoods. And I think it's just something about the culture that we're in, and not just the culture. I'm not saying the black culture. I'm saying the white culture, the Hispanic culture. Everyone.
Tribal culture, like the culture of tribalism.
Exactly.
Like stick with your own kind culture.
And it gets that mob mentality. I think anybody can speak for if God, if you walked into a room of nothing but white guys, you're gonna feel slightly uncomfortable. I mean, would you not? If I walked into me or Phil. You walk into a room full of nothing but black guys. It's not that you feel scared or intimidated or something. It's just you feel slightly uncomfortable.
I would feel like I was the worst dancer, but I mean, about it. I'd be like, I know I'm the worst dancer in this room.
Yeah, I didn't feel that until I got older and realized that people are looking at me differently.
So
when I was younger, I grew up around nothing but white people.
Racism doesn't exist in children. It doesn't exist. But, you know what I mean? My kids have black cousins. Right. They have Hispanic cousins.
It's totally taught.
They don't know them black, brown, anything like that.
But I do want to address the
culture. But the media pushes each culture forward. Each different race. I mean, you get into a certain thing and then you're driven by it because of the norms of society.
Brandon, I have to ask you, you're convinced the media hates us all and wants us all to kill each other. What media do you listen to? Like, to be honest, like I was exaggerating, but dude, what is your preferred way of learning about like the news in the world?
People. I guess you would say different platforms of social media. And I don't listen to the stories on social media, but I just take people's views, you know what I mean? And I kind of take that as an average. I don't watch CNN. I don't watch Fox, MSNBC. I think they're all a sham. I think they're all working together. They're owned by the same.
But you don't have any source of media that you would listen to, like other than social media?
Yeah, I have. There's a few podcasts. One, what's that? Really
like the Alpha 5 podcast.
Alpha 5, yeah, that's that one.
That's right. Shameless plug on our own show.
If you're listening, you may have heard of them.
Oh man.
So, but, I mean, I don't think there is, and this is what you said. White people. I won't deny that white people have. We have gained from racism more. I won't deny that at all. What I'm saying, I don't think racism as much as an issue is what it truly is today. It's the media is pushing it to be.
The fact that
Morgan
it's
Freeman,
any
I think,
issue.
said it best.
Yeah.
The best thing about racism,
Like exaggerating it more than
It's not. I guess that's the part that's angering me, because I keep hearing like it's not as bad, but like clearly, yes, it is as bad as you think it is. Like what you saw with George Floyd, that's everywhere all the time, and not
but
everybody has.
And I also, but I think that we don't
African
understand.
Americans, with Hispanic, with the Caucasian.
Well, here's the
I
difference.
think that
Going
we
back
don't
to
understand the economic aspect of it. And that's where I think a lot of people are discussing when we talk about what's going on now, when we talk about the riots and the looting. When you consider that, you have to think about the economic disparity between the dominant culture and minorities, and the amount that the mostly poor people in our country, more poor people are people of color than are white. Like, percentage wise or whatever, like a larger percentage of people of color are poor versus the percentage of white people. Yeah, like, you know what I mean? But I don't like, I'm assuming that because there's more white people, the larger percentage of that, but you know what I mean? Like how to explain it mathematically or whatever. But that whole concept, that's why you have more anger and you have more violence, is because you have people who are poor. And what we're talking about here is this economic aspect of the coronavirus hitting poor communities worse, meaning hitting people of color worse. So people are frustrated about that. Then the violence, and it's not just George Floyd, it's Breonna Taylor. It's 5 years ago, Freddie Gray had the same thing happen to him that happened to George Floyd. And this also is why I go back to this being a concept of power and not 100% race, because the cops that killed Freddie Gray were not all white people.
Yeah. It's about equity mostly.
What about
really
Stanley Stavisky? Charles Cook. Nobody exactly. Who's that? And that's the thing.
Yeah, but if we don't hear about it,
violently killed by white people as well. But you don't hear it on the media. It doesn't push.
Well,
it's not. It doesn't.
Wait,
go
who was he? Was he the one that was shot by the cop in the hallway of the hotel? Or
I remember that one. Yeah, I heard about that one.
Because that's what I mean. It's like this concept is about police brutality and the militarization of police,
right?
And that's really like the basis of BLM too.
Well, that's why I don't want to hear, like, once you start talking about black on black crime in this situation, you're going to fall on deaf ears to me, because guess what? Once the black on black crime happens and Jamal kills Pookie, Jamal goes to jail. You understand?
The point of that, what I was bringing up, was the white on white crime percentages is practically.
Yeah, I thought.
Well, those. I mean,
I thought that was. I'd never heard that before.
For the sake of this discussion, for the sake of this discussion, it's kind of, this is about police brutality and where it's targeted at. They are brutal towards white people too, but you can't tell me that if that was a white man on the ground or a white woman that wouldn't have happened. It just wouldn't have happened. And
the knee on the neck would not have.
But it would have been televised. It would have been televised. It has happened, but it wouldn't have been televised.
My point is, you wouldn't have seen, right? And the cop knew he was being filmed. It wouldn't have been televised because that cop would have knew, I can't kill this white man on camera, but I can kill this black man on camera. At least he believed it. Look at the look and smirk on this man's face when he had his neck on his knee, or his
that's
knee
a good
on his
point.
neck.
I'm glad you said that, actually. That okay, so what? I guess to backtrack, you had mentioned about Trump making Antifa terrorist organization. I support Trump. I've supported a lot of his ideas, not all of them, and that's one I don't support. You're right. It brings into caliber being able to take someone, hold them indefinitely, not even charge them. You have zero rights, and there's no dictating who they can, say. They can,
because
they
you
say,
agree Antifa doesn't exist.
I'm black. I'm Antifa. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
So I don't agree with that. But what you said, he knew he was being recorded. So I don't know. To me, it brings up more of the, I'm not going to go. I've seen some crazy, stupid conspiracies online about George Floyd still alive, and he knew he was being recorded. And he's with Jeffrey Epstein on an island somewhere drinking lattes, and it's like, it's retarded. But I do think the man lost his life. What I'm upset about, I'm not upset about a black man was killed by a white man or a cop for that name. I'm upset that an American did not have his right to a fair trial, that American laid there on the ground and killed. And I'm more upset that Americans are going nuts and feeding right into the media of what they want. And I'm not too convinced at this point that Trump isn't going right along with them to be able to push in martial law and to bring in more laws and things like that to go against us. And but I think we're all feeding into it so much. That's why I'm so confused. I woke up the other day. I told my wife, I was like, I just want to cry and day drink. I don't even know whose side I'm on anymore.
That's also cyclical. One of those
side of the people,
together.
the side of the American people that is what we need to all be on. Not right, not left, the people.
But some people have a very different concept of what makes an American than you do.
Yeah, but I don't. But I mean,
looks like.
Well,
that's what you're talking about, really.
Let's start humanizing American citizens first.
Exactly.
Let's start humanizing all American citizens first, and making sure Black people could be the greatest ally that white people ever had, and they're just like, nope, nope. If Black people wanted to smoke with white people, it would have happened a long time ago. That's not the case. Just want to be able to curse out the Starbucks lady like you do and not get in trouble, or be able to curse out a cop like you do.
Oh, no.
Talking about Karen again?
That's it. Yeah. I've seen videos of white people cursing at cops, and my chest started hurting. I'm like, oh my God. Like, yeah, but I'm terrified. Like, yo, this person is about to die, but they don't have a fucking ounce of fear, and that's what I want.
So that's something I thought about as I grew up. I was like, as I got older and became an older white male, about how when you're out there, you're no longer the target of police. Like, you reach a certain age as a teenager, you are. See, cops always think teenagers are up to no good. It was amazing. I used to get pulled over all the time when I was a teenager. I got pulled over for a light on my license plate, and the cop started asking me about the liquor store I worked at. Started trying to get me to admit that I bought liquor illegally, which I never did. It was really creepy. He was trying to get me to incriminate myself this whole time because he just thought I was an idiot. And then now I'm in my 30s. Nobody pulls me over. I'm like, hello, officer. That can't happen.
I just want to feel like that one day.
No matter where I am, I'm not afraid of cops anymore.
Yeah,
16 years old, I was scared to death. I don't know what I'm scared to death of, but
I wanted to touch on something that actually all three are going to be tied in with this, because Brandon brought up a good point when he was talking about just respect. He was pissed off that it was just American on the ground being killed, and then we're talking about the race issue, and then Phil mentioned before last podcast that stuck with me, and I find it kind of interesting because it doesn't fall too far off of what I truly believe is part of this. And I started seeing stuff on the news, right? And then I started seeing stuff on social media, which portrayed a different picture of what was going on. And we saw people that weren't of color starting altercations and saying they were for the movement and breaking windows and starting looting. So pallets of bricks being put in places that there was no construction going on. Mm-hmm. So that's something that I truly believe. And this is why I feel like it's so important that we stand together with this. And just like we're going to hold the people accountable in the police force, and we should tell them to actually do the right thing, we got to actually police our own protests and make sure there's people not trying to undermine the movement. Because by doing that, they're successfully trying what they think they've been trying to do for years, which is destabilize the country. They've been doing it for a long time. Pick your poison. Who's they is Illuminati, freaking and Antifa, the commune,
Russia, China,
China,
the usual suspects. Usual suspects.
China, Russia, whatever you want to pick. But
anonymous.
It's apparent that
anonymous to the good guys
at work.
I don't know who they are, man.
And that's why it's so important that we stand together with this, because if we don't, they want us to class warfare, rich versus poor, white versus black, citizen versus the police, freaking you name it, it's out there. And they've been successfully trying to do that. And I think unfortunately, it's working. So now more than ever, we got to actually stand together with this and make sure that we preach the right message, we stand by our message, and we police ourselves. That's actually probably the main thing. And make sure that
makes sense.
Because we got people saying, oh, I don't want to be part of this protest, just like Brenda was talking about. Some people see that, oh, I don't want to be part of this, they're rioting and looting. Meanwhile, over there, they're having a peaceful protest like they did in Monroe, and everybody's standing in solidarity with each other. So it's to me, I see through the bullshit, and I know there's something bigger at play here. Call me conspiracy theorist, maybe I am, but then I see the videos of pallets of bricks and all this stuff, and people wearing all black and looking very
smashing
suspect.
Windows, yeah.
There's definitely something sinister going on, more than what happened with George Floyd.
there's anarchy. That's what I'm saying. Is there's anarchist opportunists, and that's the thing. Is there's certainly so like the phrase is agent provocateur that I had never seen before, and it's essentially talking about like. Now, in some situations, they're police planted or law enforcement planted in order to antagonize the violence against protesters. But what you're talking about, Fabian, is what we were talking about last time, is that whole like geopolitics and whoever they are. And in this situation, I'm a firm believer it is external foreign forces. I don't think it's George Soros. I think it's more along the lines of Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping, because I mean, look at how this is making the United States look in comparison to China with Hong Kong. I mean, I also have seen people on Facebook groups in Philly talking about spray the protesters with hoses, spray them with blue hoses. That's what they did in Hong Kong. I've seen Americans calling for Chinese tactics on our protesters.
And when that happens, I feel like that's when they won.
Because and I'm not going to lie to you, these are Trump supporters.
The rest of the world, right, is
that's what they want.
America. We are forced that you don't want to don't want to reckon with. We are. Well, you don't want to mess with us, military or whatever. And everybody knows the only way to actually destabilize us is from within. And this is what they're trying to do: pit us against each other. So, as much as you want to fight for the right causes, we also have to understand that we all also are here together. We're all Americans, whether you're black, white, cop, whatever. We have to fight the fight, but at the same time, keep in mind that we're all here. This is all our homes together, and as long as we can do that,
you're right. But you're not going to get the mass of black people to understand that, like right now.
Well,
like,
that's
it's not gonna.
I know.
That's
a
concept that runs like it runs the opposite of diversity. So this whole idea is we all got to be together. We all got to think together. We have to have the same concept, and that's not something that happens here in America.
Not the same concept.
Because even when we agree, we still find ways to disagree. It's about this. It's the rugged individualism, or whatever you want to call it, that America was founded on. Like that whole concept makes it impossible to have movements here like you see in other countries. I
think what Gaiman's saying, when he's talking about whoever the leader of whoever's paying for these bricks being placed, it's the same people who, when we say elite, and it's no different than what they've been trying to do from a long, long time. And it's pit us against each other. Like you said, when it's hard for one person to say, I don't want to get with that movement over there because they're rioting and looting, but they're being peaceful over there. Funny, when all that happens, the news is never over there when the people are peaceful protesting. They're only over there when the looting is going on, when the rioting is going on. And with that being said, I've been watching tons of videos. A lot of the anarchy that's going on, the setting fires, breaking the window, that's not going on by big groups of black people, or even big groups of the peaceful white protesters and stuff like that. The peaceful black protesters, any of that, it's individuals. And I think those individuals are being paid to come and do this, to start it, because once it starts happening, you get a certain amount of mob rule. It's not just black people. It's not just white people, anybody, and you get the youth, and windows start breaking and fires start getting set, they're going to loot. You see more of the looting from black people on TV because it's happening more in these bigger cities, Chicago, New
and
York,
in poor communities. It doesn't happen. The rich communities aren't looting. Yeah. They already have all that.
They were looting.
They already have all that shit.
They were looting in Beverly
Hills.
No.
But were they really?
But the rich don't live in Beverly Hills. They live in the Hills.
No, it was white people.
They were looting downtown Beverly Hills. That's not where the rich.
But Brandon, what you were saying is that the rich elites are controlling the working class, and the working class should rise up against the rich elites.
Exactly.
Are you going to grow out a big beard?
You want to make a change?
You get where we're going, though. You sound like Karl Marx.
No, I tried growing a beard.
Fabian's a communist too now, huh?
I tried growing a beard. It itches too much. But no, if we want to make a change tomorrow, if everybody wants to make a stand, if everybody wants to, I've seen the Blackout Tuesday, that everybody's doing on Facebook. And I know several people who done it, but they're still posting on Facebook.
Hollow activism. Hollow activism is awesome nowadays.
No one goes to work.
The Blackout Tuesday is not about
gas tomorrow. No one buy anything from Walmart. No one turn on the news stations so they don't get any ratings.
I haven't bought anything from Walmart in a long time because I can't go out.
Good for you.
Addressing the Blackout Tuesday.
Riot.
Blackout Tuesday doesn't mean you can't post. It means that you can't post your selfies and your dumb rock videos from wrestling back. You know what I mean? You can't do the dumb.
Though.
I love them, and I'm on the.
I've been really bored today. You can't do this to me during
confused
quarantine. Couldn't we have done blackout like day we go back?
Yeah, no, dude. There's the WWE app is free, by the way, in case you want to watch free wrestling. But the point is, right. It's not about not posting. It's about only posting about this. I guess
the activism.
I got you.
Right. So, but yeah, there are a lot of people who are bandwagoners and a lot of people who just want to talk. But the last thing I want to talk about before we get out of here are solutions, possible things that we can do. You know, whether in our communities, what kind of message we can spread, something that we can do to fix. It's hard as hell. It's going to be a big task to even say this, but to kind of fix America, because we cannot rely on any administration, Obama or Trump or the next one or the Pat. Like, you can't rely on anybody but ourselves to stop the division and problems that outside forces are caused. So what are some actionable items, some things that we can do to try to fix this problem that we have right now?
I'll let you go first because I know you have some ideas. I know you've been thinking about it as a teacher.
I only think I do. But I think locally for me, I think it's easier for me to try to be changed because I'm a teacher, though. And I'm trying to think is like on a more global scale is what can I do? Because the easy thing now is to say get active in your community, do what needs to be done among your people that you're around. You know, I'm gonna have a kid next month, and you guys, John, you're a parent. You know, Brandon, you're a father. Fabian, do you have any kids you know about? I'll take that as a no. So given that you don't know about them, you can't raise them. But the idea is, number one, is you raise those kids to be diverse and to understand and accept all different types of people. And I can raise other people's kids to do that as a teacher. But on a global scale, like the one thing that I would think of that's like big picture is how do we change the culture that we talked about in policing, where people feel like it's, you know, as someone who, you know, I lost my brother last year and he made a lot of bad choices because he was sick, he was bipolar, and he did some bad things. And it's like a lot of people, when you accept that, you enable that. Like when you accept somebody's bad behavior for whatever reason, and sometimes it's in their control and sometimes it's not. When you accept their bad behavior, you allow more bad behavior to happen. It's the same thing in the classroom. So what we need to do is we need to have people who stop the bad behavior. And we need to have cops like that cop in Seattle who moves the other guy's knee. Maybe that kid shouldn't have even been arrested at all, but it doesn't even matter. That person's going to have that day in court. They're going to get their Fifth and Sixth Amendment rights. So what we need to do is we need to find good cops. And I think we need to find, people who will do the right thing. And I feel like every single one of us here who knows police officers that we know personally feel like that person does the right thing when it's a person that we know. I don't know about every cop we've encountered, but every cop I know personally as a human being does the right thing. So why are there still murders like George Floyd and Freddie Gray? And that's the way I think that's the biggest thing. But that's huge.
It is huge. But something that's worth tackling.
But thank you for letting me go first, Fabian. I appreciate it. And now I would like to hear your ideas as well.
Brandon, what do you think?
What?
Brandon, he wants to see Brandon first.
Oh.
So, well, actually, I guess this is the perfect time. You guys told me to shut up earlier before the camera started. So for one of my things, personally, I've been arguing with my wife about it, but, it's something, even John, you mentioned when you were young, you wanted to do. I've been thinking about maybe pursuing becoming a cop, and which most people are like, oh, no. But why not be the change that you want to have change? For me, the number one reason for becoming a cop would be able to police the police, give that a better name. I look at, and a second to that, the second best thing I could do would be to be a good father. I want to instill in my children the ideas and beliefs that I have, and these same, good beliefs coming into the world, so that hopefully, it's like what is the flowers that blow in the wind, the seeds, and the sprinkles everywhere, and then they say one flower can seed an entire acre in like a year's time.
Aren't dandelions weeds?
Weeds, okay, yeah. Coming from the teacher, I'm not a teacher.
I'm also an asshole.
Yeah, he can't help himself.
I just can't.
And if it can bloom out to better ideas, that's great. But becoming a cop could possibly be the answer. Awesome. And if we even looked at it differently and tried to make policing more of a neighborhood thing, maybe maybe we get less cops, and we rely on the National Guard more for certain things that get really big, but we get less cops, and we rely on the community to be more of a policing. Everybody watch their own type of thing. I don't know.
Babe. Guy has something, man. You gonna take a 0 for the day?
No.
Come on, Fabian, let's hear it.
More guns. I know that's Fabian.
Fabian wants more guns. He wants to police everybody's neighborhood.
You want some more time, Fabe?
No. Well, because there's a couple of things I want to touch on, but I'm trying to consolidate it all in one thing because I think there's a couple of solutions to this. I guess the most direct approach is like probably what Phil and Brendan said. I think it starts at home. It starts with parenting. It starts with teaching the kids from right and wrong. I also think not just getting involved in your community. Yeah, like you said, it's probably a little bit of that's a typical go-to, but keeping informed and keeping aware and realize, what the true enemy is. And I think that's the divide amongst us. And my thing is that I think we have too much in this country of, how should I say this? There's too much, I don't even want to get on this topic, but I think it's important to this. Too much political correctness when it comes to differentiating amongst ourselves. Can't say black, you really can't say Jewish, you can't make certain jokes. I feel like I don't believe in the melting pot. I like the salad bowl. Certain group of people's the croutons. Certain people are the lettuce. Another group, the Italians, or freaking the salad dressing, whatever it is. We're all made of a different group of different components to salad, right? And all together, it tastes great, and that's America.
Some people don't like dressing, though. You got to be careful, man.
Yeah, I know, but guess what?
Jeez.
My thing is that we're all very different, and we should all accept that. And we're a beautiful country that has many different cultures. And we shouldn't just be worried about this person and that color. We all come together when we need to, but all be individuals. And we have to respect the other people and enjoy the other cultures that this country has to offer. And I just feel like this divide and this political correctness is actually affecting that. And I'm not going to get too much into that. That's probably in a podcast itself, but I just got so many thoughts going through.
Start making a list of things I want to talk about, because now I want to go after this political correctness thing, because I don't think
our whole podcast is based off of saying taboo things. So
I think we agree more than we disagree, but I think your interpretation of political correctness is different than mine.
Just to touch that a little bit, what do you guys think there could be another podcast you could get right here. What I think one of the big things to change would be removing labels. John, you're not an African American. Fabian, you're not Hispanic American. When you're an American, you're an American.
I know what I am.
I am a new subscriber.
No, I'm Jewish. I'm Eastern European Jew.
That's religion, man. That's religion.
Don't tell that. Yeah, tell that to the Nazis. Tell that to anybody who's like, I don't want to be a Jew today. I give it up. Yeah.
But I do like that. I'm actually starting to stop calling myself black. It's hard to do that, but I don't want to call myself black no more, because the connotation is not based off of my skin color, but based off of because the word black is bad, like blacklist, black sheep, black this,
we could have
black
a different
that.
Discussion about that,
though. We can.
But do you use other words with bad connotations to refer to yourself or other black people?
I'm trying to stop that, is what I'm saying. I'm trying to change these
not
things.
Just the word black, though. You get where I'm
No,
going.
I'm not. I don't want to call myself nigga no more either. I don't want to. That's on the list of things that I'm not trying not to say.
Did you write it down? You wrote a list?
No, it's a mental list. But before we get out of here, I do want to share what I think we should start as far as solutions to the problem that we're going on right now. The first thing we should do is weed all the bad cops out. Go through, remove the protections that cops have from being prosecuted the same as everybody else. Get that shit out of here. Then go through and prosecute the cops that need to be prosecuted, because that cop that killed George Floyd should have been prosecuted a long time ago, but thanks to Amy Klobuchar, she fucking shit the bed, and he fucking, was able to do this. So that's number one. Number two, demilitarize and defund the police, because that's a big problem. They are out here, they all look like the fucking Avengers. And what you see right now going through DC to peaceful protesters, they are they want to be soldiers. They want to be in Afghanistan. They want to have that fantasy of being Call of Duty guys, and that military gear gives them the opportunity to use it on people's lives who they don't really value that much in the first place.
And they get to steal your money to buy it. Civil
right,
asset forfeiture.
They use your money to beat the shit out of you. It's so demilitarize and partially defund the police. Lastly, there needs to be some kind of stress, something for the cops. They have a super stressful job, and even the racist ones or the non-racist ones are going to react high strung sometimes, because that's the environment, that is the nature of the job. So we need to start getting these guys in stress relief programs, therapies and stuff like that, so they won't be more inclined to hurt a civilian because they had a bad day, because they're human too, right? These are foundations. And also start getting people that live in these neighborhoods to police these neighborhoods. Stop having dudes from Westchester County and Orange County go to the Bronx to police these kids, because guess what? That's not going to work. They don't understand. They're not going to comprehend. They're not going to have sympathy. So I think once we start doing those things, we'll see better relationships between the cops. So, but on that note, I don't know if you guys have to add anything else before we get off.
I just thought that point about the stress for the cops.
I'm gonna have to look back on this video, but I think in a small sense, I think me and you both have the same answer in the end, which makes me feel good.
Yeah,
That's dope.
I think a lot of us do. I thought that consideration for stress for police officers and recognizing them as human beings and humanizing the police force, because I do know that the police officer at the school that I work with is a phenomenal cop and does a great job of working with kids. You got to find the right guys. There are, and you got to find the right guys to do the jobs in the right spots.
Right. Once you get the bro dudes out of there to have something to prove, then you can get the people actually like Brandon that want to get in there and do the right thing.
But we should also get rid of civil asset forfeiture. That's a whole nother topic, but civil asset forfeiture is a terrible concept, and it lets bad cops steal money for the police force and militarize it.
Yeah, we don't want those things. All right. On that note, we're going to get out of here. I'm John. I've been your host. I'm here with Fabian, here with Phil, here with Brandon. We appreciate you guys listening. You can follow us on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. If it has a social media.com and you can talk to other people, we're probably there. So hit us up. And remember, we're all alphas at something. Peace.